Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. This is one where I get to kind of geek out a bit and, I guess show you what a big nerd I am in that I flippin' love learning and study skills, because I want to talk to you in this episode about the unexpected gifts of improving your academic writing skills. Now, academic writing can feel like a dry, uni-specific skill that once you're done with studying, once you're done with your qualification, you don't even need anymore. Like I've sometimes, quite often actually, had people say to me when they're at like the end of their tether with their course of like, I just have 7 essays left and then I never have to write an essay again. And I get that sentiment for sure. But unfortunately, I am kind of a different belief that actually the skills that you learn while studying, while working on assignments, while trying to write academically are so transferable. They're one of the most transferable skills that you are building. You know, improving your academic writing, it's not just about getting better marks. It's about becoming a clearer thinker and a clearer communicator in all areas of life. And that's why I see study skills as life skills. I often, this is why I know that I'm in the job that I am right and I'm meant to be in, because like all day, every day, I am just thinking about learning and studying. Like when I think I wrote a blog post about this, but when I go skiing, I think about how all of these lessons of like perseverance and not getting too far ahead, like not worrying about how big the mountain is, just taking it step by step, like all of these lessons, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a lesson for studying. When I pick new hobbies and learn things, like when I'm rubbish at netball all the time, I think about studying and learning lessons that apply. Like I'm thinking about it all the time because I'm a big nerd, evidently, but also because it really is transferable. Everyone is, a lifelong learner, whether or not you're in formal education. If you're trying to improve yourself at work, in hobbies, relationships, then study skills are helpful. And that is my kind of case that I am making in this episode. So, most students think I just need to get through this essay. But actually, learning to plan and structure and argue and reflect, it doesn't just stay within the remit of your qualification, it has ripple effects elsewhere. So I want to share in this episode the 5 unexpected gifts of academic writing and improving those skills. So some of these are, the first few are kind of more like career focused. And then the last 2 are kind of career, but also personal focused as well. So the first unexpected gift, an area that this improves, is better job applications. So when you learn how to unpack an essay question and actually decode it and understand the guidance, when you learn the skills of linking back to the question and understanding the marking criteria and demonstrating so that you can tick that marking criteria, you are also learning how to tailor a job application, how to write your CV or write your personal statement, weaving in those words. So all of those words of, if they mention teamwork and dedication and all of that kind of, job description-y type phrasing, you are going to know how to weave it in. You're going to also know how to structure your evidence to show impact. So this is super important when you're explaining why you are the best person for the job, because you've built the skill of having a question, an essay question that you need to answer, and then writing a few thousand words answering that. And so a CV, a personal statement, you can do that because you've worked on those skills. You'll write sharper CVs and personal statements because you know how to write more clearly and concisely with formal languaging, great signposting. Like quite often with CVs, it's only supposed to be like 2 sides of A4, or a personal statement might only be 1 page or 500 words. So you need to know how to write concisely, right? Because otherwise You might be just, using up your 500 words and not really focusing on writing that concisely. And then someone else going for the same job who has improved their academic writing skills, they're able to get way more good stuff into their 500 words, which not necessarily means they're going to get the job, but they're more likely to hit the criteria to then get called for an interview. The second thing then is stronger performance in the interviews themselves, because you'll be more confident explaining your thinking, explaining your experience, a bit less rambling. You'll probably stay on track because you've learned how to do that from your essay writing. And you're also going to be able to understand the need to back up your claims with evidence. Like an essay, you don't just get to make wild claims and then move on to the next one. You have to back up that claim with theory, with evidence, with case studies, with examples. And so this is something that I see quite often in essays, and I can imagine in interviews as well. Like, I did quite a lot of interviews to hire freelancers a few years ago, and some of them really didn't go that well because people would just kind of tell me stuff, right? They would tell me that they are a great problem solver. They're a great communicator. Okay, but that's not really, I don't necessarily believe you. You're just telling me, right? I want you to back up your evidence with claims. So in an interview setting, you obviously need to bring in a solid example of, if it's about being a great communicator, don't just tell me, oh yeah, I'm really great at communicating, like my team love me. Okay, give a proper example of that. And as you are giving me that example, weave in the keywords from the job description, like wow me so that I can tick all those boxes. And you see how that's very similar to essay writing. And one of my students said that after working on her essays, they suddenly realized that she felt a lot more confident applying for jobs. She felt less waffly, more precise. It's same skills, but different settings. And actually, I have one student that I've worked with quite closely who she was kind of doing a degree over 6 years, so part-time. I think she was going into her second year, and we talked about her career aspirations. And she said, yeah, once I get this degree, I'm going to go for a promotion at work. Like, that's kind of why I'm getting the degree. And then within her kind of second year of studying, she decided, you know what, I'm actually going to go for this promotion now. And the skills that she'd built, so it was part of it was confidence, that she felt that she'd gained knowledge and skills, but it was also the skills of putting herself out there. So I think she sent an email like asking to be considered, and then she obviously would have had to build out her CV and a personal statement and then do the interview. And she wowed them at interview, in part because she had been working so much on her essay writing skills, which was improving her essay grades, that had then filtered in, and her application was then amazing, and she got the job. And I think since then, she's still not finished with that 6-year degree, but she's got another promotion since then. So in terms of her timeline of career progression, it was fast-tracked purely from the confidence and skills that she built in her academic writing. Pretty awesome. So then the third unexpected gift is clearer communication at work, which is also kind of more value add. So let's say you're asked to write a report or present something to your manager, like create a presentation. If you've practiced and you've built skills in planning and structuring an essay, then breaking a complex topic into sections, making sure you've got clear introductions, using headings, linking ideas together, writing for a particular audience, that becomes second nature to you, which then means that those reports, those presentations are better. Like, I remember reading when I was in my corporate job, just atrocious things. And I'm like, would see these reports, read these long emails and have to sit through presentations that were really not good because the skills weren't there, right? The person hadn't been taught how to structure their ideas and their thinking and communicate effectively in writing. And so it really sets you apart from others. Like, I have a friend who is on track for like just insane promotion after promotion after promotion, because in his company, it's quite small, but there's, a decent number of people. He is one of the only people who seems able to create an engaging presentation. And yes, part of it is the ability to deliver the presentation, but you have to actually create something worthwhile. So he's on this track because he has put himself above other people in that way. Even in emails, you're going to be more confident getting to the point, no more writing 3 paragraphs when 1 would do. And in certain kind of corporate settings, like my ex-boss, he would only read short emails from me. So I also had to improve that skill pretty quickly in the job of I need to say what I want quickly because he's not going to read an essay. And this happens because you've trained your brain during essay writing to kind of write with clarity, to write concisely. There's probably going to then be less misunderstandings as well, because if you know how to signpost your ideas and then write clearly, there's less scope for misunderstanding and miscommunication. And one of my students recently had to write a pretty stressful email to a tutor requesting reasonable adjustments for an upcoming assignment. Now, they had to put across their argument clearly, persuasively, back up their perspective, consider the aims and objections of the reader. Like, it was a tricky email to write. Now, this student not only got the answer that she was hoping for, she actually received praise from that tutor on how great her email was, all because she had taken the time to improve her academic writing skills for her assignments, and that had then transferred in and applied to other communication. Okay, so then the last 2 gifts are more based on kind of communication and thinking. So the 4th gift is better critical thinking and confidence. Now, this one can feel quite, I guess, subtle, but also powerful. When you write academic essays, you learn to ask better questions and you stop taking things at face value, right? You dig deeper, you explore okay, but what if this, or what does that actually mean? What does that matter? You learn to weigh up opposing views and you learn to see, okay, this person thinks that and this person thinks that. Where's let's judge these statements. Like, where's the line of truth here? Where's the conditions for that truth and the context? And that means that your understanding of the world gets more nuanced. And you go from being someone who, I know that when I first started studying my degree, I felt like I was just whatever I was told by my tutor, by my textbooks, I just kind of absorbed it as to being okay, that is the truth of the matter. That's how the world works. That's how everything works. But actually, as you progress through your course and as you work on your academic writing skills, you start to understand nuance and start to build your own take on things and build your own opinions, but backed up by evidence. And then you also become changeable in a good way, right? I talk about this with my friends sometimes, that I struggle to pick sides of arguments, or when something happens in the media or popular culture and then everyone picks sides, I struggle to pick sides because I'm I can see part of the viewpoint of that person and part of that, and that doesn't feel right to me, but that kind of feels okay to me, or that feels true for those people. And that nuance, I think, is really important in this world. And this confidence to back yourself with ideas and have an opinion and then back it up with evidence, that sticks, and it means that you're more willing to speak up. You might be more willing to be actually, I've thought about that. Here's another angle. And you're better able to distinguish between what is evidence-driven information online and what is biased misinformation. And you can truly think for yourself. And now, this is a topic that I want to talk about in more depth at some point, but I think this is a super important skill in a world of AI and fake news. The ability to think critically is so key, and it's a very human skill, I guess. And when we're talking about, protecting ourselves from AI, I think actually working on your critical thinking and your ability to see nuance, really, really important. And then the fifth gift is related to this in that it's more interesting conversations. And this sounds a bit random, but it's definitely true for me. And I've also had students tell me that they feel smarter after a few months of working on their essay skills, not just on paper, like they're getting better grades, they're finding essay writing easier, but in life as well. And this is actually one of the reasons I even started studying for my degree. Obviously, I had a lot of other reasons, but one of them was also I wanted to feel smarter and I wanted to have things to say. Like, I remember I used to sit in meetings at work and everyone would be talking about stuff and ideas, and I had nothing to add because I guess like my knowledge base was kind of my experience. And I guess I wasn't, reading that widely outside of work. Like, my schooling had stopped years previously, and at school level, I just didn't really feel like I had much to offer when they were talking about issues at work and challenges with the business. And then also, like, with friends, friends who had already furthered their education and been to university, they would talk about like societal issues. And then, the history student would have something to say. And then the psychology student would have something to say. And then the economics student would have something to say. And I felt jealous. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to study, is I just wanted to feel like having a good conversation is something that lights me up. So when you improve your academic writing skills, you learn to think more deeply about the world with greater nuance. You start to think, actually, these aren't really black and white issues. There's a lot of shades of grey here. You learn how to notice patterns and spot connections, understand complex issues, talk about them in a way that makes sense to other people. And that might show up in lots of ways. It might show up, like I'm saying there, of feeling like you have things to talk about at work that are interesting. Like, I remember I did one of my business modules covered HR, and it talked about change and how there's a lot of resistance to change. And so it's really hard to change things in corporate settings. And because I'd learned that, I felt confident to ask my manager if during the next big kind of team retreat, I could do a mini presentation. Now, I was asking to do this mini presentation as like a nobody, but he agreed, and I loved it, even though I was terrified, because I actually had something to say, which felt really exciting. But it might also just show up when you're out and about with friends or in the group chat, where you have a different angle, or when you're explaining your course to a friend and they say, wow, like I never thought about that like that, or that's really interesting. Like, academic writing, it sharpens your thinking. And I think it makes you a more curious, engaging person to be around, really. So there's my 5 unexpected gifts of better job applications, stronger performance in interviews, clearer communication at work. You'll become a better critical thinker and a more confident thinker and speaker and writer. And you're just going to become a more interesting person who has more interesting conversations. And this is why I am so passionate about teaching essay skills and academic writing, because you're not just learning how to write a uni essay. You're learning how to think, persuade, reflect, and communicate, which helps in so many other areas. And these are the skills that are going to help you get jobs, impress at work, build relationships, feel more confident in yourself. So essay writing is the training ground for so much more if you let it be. And so that's, I think, another reason why it is worthwhile investing in improving your study skills. Like, I have had a few people say to me before, like, oh, I'm thinking of joining like your upcoming workshops or courses, but, I've only got a few months left in my course. Like, do you think it's worthwhile? And it depends. It always depends. But if someone is looking to, get their grade up from a 2-2 to a 2-1 or a 2-1 to a first, and we do the maths and we work out, if they jump their grade up for their final assignments, then they will get that outcome, then for sure it's worth it, right? But then if we also look wider and see that improving your academic writing skills has such a wider impact than that, then why would you not want to improve them? And you're already doing that by listening to this podcast episode. And I have, my other podcast episodes about essay writing. I've got my book. I've got everything else I do. But then I also have my upcoming new training that I'm doing this summer, which is my Better Essays Bootcamp. So this is brand new. It's a one-day virtual training designed to help you take your academic writing from decent to distinction level. And it's for students who already kind of know how to write essays, but they want to learn how to write better essays, how to add flow and finesse and depth and distinction to it. Now, we're going to work in a small group, no more than 20 people, and it's happening this August, Saturday the 16th, on Zoom. So everything will be recorded as well, and you get lifetime access to the recordings. But it is these practical, actionable workshops where you're going to learn the skills itself. And this is perfect to use the summer to upskill before, your next big assignment or your next journey, your next section of your course. Now, when you join the bootcamp, you will get full access to the new version of my Write Better Essays program when it is updated, which I'm doing over the next month or so. This is my brand new version of my self-study program. Now, this walks you through the entire essay writing process, start to finish, from understanding your question, planning your argument, all the way to polishing, editing, and using feedback to improve. Now, inside Write Better Essays, you get step-by-step video lessons, practical examples, downloadable tools, and I'm even creating some AI-powered tools to help you. These are all completely ethical. They're not writing anything for you, but they are helping you to review your thinking and your ideas. And obviously, they are optional as well. You don't have to use them if you are anti-AI. And so this is the self-study program that I recommend everyone go into, whether you are a beginner, that you've never written an essay before, or you are master's level and you've only got, your big dissertation left, because none of us have been taught how to write essays properly. So there will be gaps in your learning. There will be gaps in your skills. So anyone who joins the bootcamp gets access to Write Better Essays, because then you can go and plug those gaps. And then the bootcamp is where we sharpen those skills even further. So in this live training, I'm going to teach you advanced strategies, but in a simple way with lots of examples. You're going to learn how to structure your paragraphs so that each one flows naturally from the last, rather than feeling like your essays are kind of a list of relevant-ish points put together. You are going to finally learn how to create flow in your essays. You're going to learn how to level up your critical thinking. When you're going to get personalized feedback from me as well on one of your essays, so you know exactly where your marks are being lost and how to fix it. So whether you are planning your dissertation, prepping for your next academic year, or just tired of feeling stuck at the same grade, the bootcamp is your chance to improve your writing and start climbing up and get the marks you really want. So it's just one day, and you'll not only improve all of your future essay writing, but as you can see from this episode, you're going to improve a lot more also. You're going to build the writing and thinking skills that will support your whole career. So head to the link in the episode description to find out more. There are payment plans available, and you'll be able to either enroll immediately or book in a call with me to chat through your studying situation and ask any questions that you have about the bootcamp. So I hope you enjoyed this episode and my kind of opportunity to geek out and talk to you about how important I think study skills are. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment or come find me on Instagram at chloe.burroughs and DM me with what you think about the episode. And thank you so much for watching or listening, and I'll see you in the next one.